Firstly, to start off with, I, 30-year-old male, am not close to my half-brother, 21-year-old male. But we do have some contact. There's background, but I'll first explain the issue. So my husband, 31-year-old male, and I have just become dads to a son. We named my son after my late grandfather. Not his first name, but a name that makes me think of him and one that others associated with him. My half-brother was not related to my grandfather, but he wanted to be. There were issues when he was a kid, and he wanted to spend time with my grandfather and tag along when I saw him. So he was telling me that he felt like I should have considered his feelings when naming my son. He told me that it hurt him to see me honor and idealize someone who rejected him on multiple occasions and wouldn't even include him as a small part of the family. He said he always felt like my grandfather was the reason I see him as my half-brother instead of my brother. I told him what I named my son had nothing to do with him, and saying all that was pointless to me. Now for the background, my dad died when I was 7. He and my mom were in a very unstable relationship, always on and off again. My grandfather, who was my dad's dad, was a rock for me. He was the first person I came out to and supported me during that. He supported me during my dad's death. He supported me when my mom married 2 guys in the space of 18 months. The first guy, the divorce was quick because they had only been married for a week before filing. The second guy is my half-brother's dad. My half-brother didn't have extended family on either side of his family. His dad's whole family were either dead or in prison. My mom's family got sick of her on and off again situation with my dad and how she used them during the off times and even some of the on times. To make things more complicated, I would say my mom and her third husband's relationship was a lot like her and my dad's, only more volatile. I actually left as fast as I could, but before that, I did live with them and my half-brother until I was 17. My half-brother saw me go to spend time with my grandpa. Honestly, I was at his house most of the time. He would ask to come and was told he couldn't. When he was 15, he actually showed up at my grandpa's house and told him he wanted to be part of his family, and he felt like my grandpa should take care of him the way he did me, because he was such a great grandfather to me. My half-brother said my grandpa owed him. My grandpa told him he was not his grandson and he did not owe him anything and told him to go back home. My half-brother never forgot that and was hurt when I did not agree with him that my grandpa was wrong. We hardly speak at all now, but he found out I became a dad and reached out about my son's name. Am I the idiot? Now here are the comments. Comment 1. No idiots here. Of course, it was up to your grandfather to decide whether he wanted a relationship with him or not. The safety he provided you was very lovely of him, and it makes total sense you'd want to honor that with your son's name. Having said that, I still think it would be good for you to have a think about what your home situation would have been like if you had no escape. Think about what it would take for a 15-year-old boy to beg someone for love, and how it would have felt to be rejected. Your half-brother wanted a family. He wanted a loving big brother. But your household was in such turmoil. You had your hands full just surviving, and you had terrible role models for emotional maturity anyway, apart from your grandfather. But now you have a son, and you and your husband are going to be his role models. He's going to learn how to be a kind and loving human from you. You can look at him and imagine how devastating it would be if he was to experience what you and your half-brother went through. So if you feel up to it, it would show a lot of compassion to reach out to your brother and tell him that, while you disagree with him about the name, you understand why he's hurt from your childhood. Encourage him to seek some help to heal his old wounds and remind him that even though your childhood sucked, he deserves to be loved and accepted, and now he's an adult. You hope he can find good people he feels at home with. I should say, though, I do get why you dismissed him. It hurts you too. It's very comfortable to go back to the methods of coping that served you in childhood, your survival mode. Don't be afraid to seek some help if you need it either. Comment 2. NTA. Your half-brother was stuck in a really weird dynamic, and it was sad that he didn't have any adults to care for him like he needed it. But you too went through a really weird family shift, and you deserve to love and honor your grandfather the way you choose to. It's not your fault that your grandfather didn't want to take responsibility for his late son's wife's child that she didn't seem to be caring for. I get that your half-brother had a sad and possibly traumatic upbringing, but he is kind of entitled for asking, then demanding, that a man who didn't have anything to do with him to act as his grandfather. Comment 3. Every time I see a story like this, I think it's a no idiots here situation, only because this kid has had no other family in his life apart from you, really, And he wants a family so bad. Yes, he's being a prick about it, but he thinks of you so highly and just wants to be included. It's heartbreaking seeing stories like this. The only other thing I have to say is remember how he is feeling. Because at the end of the day, if he's not being treated right, don't expect it back. I know people could really disagree with this, and I could get downvoted straight to hell, but resentment is one hell of a thing. Now, for the next story. Me and my boyfriend have been dating for a few months, 18-year-old female and 18-year-old male. I can't talk with my best friend about this problem because she already dislikes him for other reasons. I don't mind being spoiled sometimes, but I also don't mind splitting the bill, but his behavior is getting out of hand. I am struggling financially, and he knows. He is rich. So often I decline dates, but he insists by saying he'll cover everything when we talk about my financial problems. The reality is that he rarely pays the whole bill. It's not his duty, but it's nice when he does since he's able to. But sometimes he makes me pay more when my part is less by keeping my change, and sometimes I cover the whole bill. The worst part is that he doesn't ask me to pay beforehand, but he asks in front of the waiter when they come with the bill, and I find it embarrassing because I think he's about to pay, so when he asks, I'm stunned, and often, also the waiter. Also, one time he bought museum tickets for a museum he wanted to visit and said, "You owe me €14 if you want to..." What am I supposed to say? No, I don't? Of course I would pay it. Yesterday we went to a restaurant with his parents, but we ate at different tables. His dad paid for his mom, and when we had to pay, I knew he would ask for my half, so I gave the money to him without questions. When we got out, his dad approached us and joked about him making me pay and asked why. I said, "Don't worry, sir, I'm used to it," in a joking way. When I went home, he texted that he was offended because his dad argued with him, saying he was giving a bad impression by not acting like a gentleman. I'm sorry because that comment just slipped out of my mouth because I was nervous. What do I do now? Now, here are the comments. Comment 1. Not the idiot. He offers to cover your cost, knowing that you can't afford to go out a lot from previous financial discussions, and then makes you split the cost anyway. This is a form of gaslighting. He deserved to be embarrassed in front of his dad. Maybe he'll stop this behavior. If he's offering to pay, he should pay. Period. If he wants to split things, he should tell you that up front so you can decide if you want to go out or not beforehand without putting you on the spot and expecting money when you're in a hard place financially. And he should never steal your change if you're splitting costs. If he throws that at you last second again, I would ask the waiter, waitress to do separate checks so you can pay your share and he can pay his. Just make sure you're keeping your own ordering within your budget in case this happens. I would break up with him though if this is a consistent issue. You're obviously not on the same page when it comes to financial expectations and spending habits. That's hard to get through, speaking as someone who has been there. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Seriously, why are you with this guy? Also, one time he bought museum tickets for a museum he wanted to visit and said, "You owe me €14 if you want to." What am I supposed to say? No, I don't. Of course I would pay it. No one who cares for their partner would pull this bullshit. If you bought tickets to something you like and invite your partner, it should mean you want to share your interests and hobbies with them. It should be inviting you out to a stress-free date to enjoy time together. What the frick is this? I already got the tickets without asking if you wanted to go, so now you owe me bullshit. Please have some self-respect, and if you won't dump him, at least stand up for yourself and tell him that kind of behavior is not acceptable. It shouldn't be an, "Of course you will pay it." It should have been a, "I'm not interested, have fun and enjoy yourself." Comment 3. Not the idiot. You're European, so it is more common that couples split the bill evenly. Still, he is breaking his promise to you in promising to pay, luring you to a place you would not otherwise choose and sticking you with the bill. Most importantly, if he's rich at 18, this seems like it's actually daddy's money. So daddy has a right to know how it's being spent. The fact that he was surprised his son was not paying is telling, and I imagine your boyfriend has been essentially embezzling money from his parents they thought were paying for his dates with you. He sounds immature and not worth your time. Now, for the next story. I, 32-year-old male, white, am potentially in trouble at work, but I don't really think I deserve it. My co-worker, Anna, around 23 years old, Asian, is new at our office, and she brings her own lunch on days we don't have a food truck. On Thursday, yesterday, she brought in a homemade stir-fry and used our shared microwave in the break room to warm it up. I was in the room when she took it out of the microwave, and it smelled really good. I asked her about the recipe, and she told me it was just a mix of ingredients and spices thrown together to avoid wasting any vegetables that might go bad soon. When I was complimenting her on how good it smelled, I also mentioned that some other people at the office might think it has a strong smell or is too different, as in, people who are racist tend to look down on different things. I have read stories about microaggressions when it comes to people of color and the food they bring in, and I wanted to warn her that she might not want to bring it in anymore to avoid any negative experiences. I made it clear that I personally liked the smell. I guess a couple of the other co-workers in the room overheard our conversation, because after Anna left the room, some of them quietly told me how it was inappropriate for me to have said that. I told them that it's true, that ethnic food gets ridiculed for smelling too strong, and that I disagreed with that. But I also think she would face less harassment if she didn't bring in that food anymore. One of my other co-workers then said that I was the only one harassing her, and making insinuations that her food is problematic, plus the fact that she hasn't even been bringing in her own food that often since she just started last week. So there couldn't have been an opportunity for this hypothetical harassment to happen to her. I just wanted people, even the difficult ones at the office, to make her feel welcome. I left work that day not thinking anything of it, until the following morning, where I hear from a different coworker that Anna talked to our HR department about the conversation and how she was hurt. I'm a bit frustrated as to why she didn't talk to me about it first, since it was just a misunderstanding and that I'm looking out for her. I did notice that today she was trying to avoid me, which is unusual and a bit heartbreaking. I just want to work things out. I wanted to be a friend to her and help her out since this is one of her first jobs out of college, but this has been blown out of proportion. Now my coworkers think I'm racist, but I really try my best to be supportive. But then again, what do I know? So, am I the idiot for telling her that her food might be a bit overwhelming for other potentially racist people in the office to handle? Now, for the next story. My sister married her husband many years ago, and he was decent for quite some time. But, over the past 10 years or so, has turned into a verbally abusive monster. He blows up over the slightest inconvenience, refuses to help with kids, barely does the minimum, and is even verbally abusive to my mother, who is in her 70s. She helps with their kids during the week and on vacations. He's done some terrible things to even the children as well. Called my sister and their firstborn fat and lazy when he barely ever helps with household chores. He's left their whole family at an amusement park and drove home alone, which is about 1.5 hours away, and stranded them there. Luckily, it was an extended family meetup, and they were able to get a ride home. A lot of the time, he's projecting his insecurities, and lately it's been blatantly obvious. I try not to get into their arguments and let a lot slide. I just don't talk to him much when we get together as a family, but I've reached my breaking point recently. They took a trip with my mother, and he misplaced his wallet into one of my sister's bags. He went into a narcissist rage and unleashed on my sister and my mother. He's said some hurtful things before. Even said to my mother, "Why don't you die already?" Which I don't know how I let that slide. This time he said a lot to my mother as she was defending my sister from his verbal assaults. A few things he said. "You're the reason your husband, my father, died early. He passed away years ago to a heart attack. For some reason, he brought me into this assault as well, which I won't get into. That was the last straw for me, attacking my mother and father, let alone being a terrible person to his family as well. After this happened, my mother told me all about the verbal fight. She was so mad at him, she grabbed him and wanted to strike him. I was so angry that I wanted to go over to his house and lay into him. I realized that would solve nothing, so I decided to not be involved with anything that he is present. I just can't let this slide, and if I see him again, I'm going to confront him about everything he said and did. My youngest nephew's their son. Birthday is coming up, and I said I would not attend if he is there. I don't want to cause a scene or argument and ruin his 4th birthday. My sister was upset that I didn't want to attend and even told me to just ignore him and show up for the kids. I just can't let any of this go, and I am even so angry talking about it. He never faces any consequences for his actions, and I tried to let my sister know she is a verbal abuse victim, but she wants to stay with him for the house and kids, which I think is just selfish. Am I the idiot for refusing to be anywhere near him for any family function? Now here are the comments. Comment 1. Not the idiot. He gets away with it because everyone lets him. Your sister lets him. He's abusing her, and it's almost impossible to stand up for yourself in those situations. She has normalized and rationalized his behavior in her head so much that she doesn't even realize what he's doing is wrong anymore. She needs people to show her that it's wrong. Refusing to be around him is one such consequence. If you are around him and he starts to be verbally abusive again, call the police. Immediately. Describe loudly what he is doing. It's amazing how quickly that can knock some sense into people. Your sister might double down or she might be relieved. Either way, make a stand. Tell your mother that you think she should also refuse to ever be around this heinous man again. If they want childcare, your sister brings the children to her, never her husband, and any insults to her mean the children must leave. I also recommend that you contact CPS about his behavior. Children raised in abusive homes suffer enormously. If your sister can't protect them, you should. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I'm so sorry this would be so tough. Of course, you have to distance yourself, as it's the only sane thing to do. I would tell my mom and my sister exactly why I'm distancing myself. Let your sister know that as soon as she wants to get out, for her safety and the safety of the kids, you will help her. I'd keep an eye out for reportable things and contact CPS. This AH is abusive, and your sister is unfortunately letting him around the kids. One note though, can you still reach out to your nephew? Maybe take him for birthday ice cream. I grew up with an abusive father, and I am still hurt by knowing that many people saw it and didn't do anything. They also distanced themselves from him and therefore the family, leaving me there with him. Hopefully your nephew can look back and know you did your best while still taking care of yourself. Comment 3. Not the idiot. You should really plan something with your mom, like offer to take your nephew out for a weekend while your mom takes her to get some help, i.e., how outside uninvested people involved whom can help with her insecurities over the well-being and safety of a home and her kids. One day verbal will escalate. Be ready, have plans in place to protect her and the kid. Even if it's just, oh, we've had something planned for his birthday and only a few adults can come because it's a surprise. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!